All right, let's see. Looks like I've got some audio here. Get razor blade. Check some Sharpies. That one looks good. All right, so looks like I've got a stream starting up again here. All right, so went ahead and decided let's go ahead and get the fur out because I kind of hit an end point on working on the head for a little bit. So I've got the fur here. This is the fur that I originally bought with the very first Blood Moon when I made him. So I've got about 2 or 3 yards of black, and I still have quite a bit of it left. But this is if I'm not mistaken, a Arctic Fox black, and this is, I don't know, it lays a bit different. It's a little bit wirier, and I really just like the way it lays. It's more thick. It's very thick actually, and it just doesn't quite have the same fluffy feel like the normal furs do. So that's why I went with this fur. So I'll put this off to the side. So I got the Arctic Fox in black. I got Arctic Fox in white. And let's see. I think that's all I have with that one, but it worked out pretty darn good. Let's see. I'm trying to figure out which direction the fur lays at this point. So these are the side seams over here. It's kind of got a little edging there. So that tells me at least that's the edge, and then the fur fibers are off the edge of the cut, so I can tell it's laying that way. But sometimes it's hard to tell. Things get kind of jacked up, so that's what I'm looking at here. And I'm going to bring the fur around this side of the table here. Hi there, Dr. K. At least that's why I'm looking at it, and it looks like to me. Hopefully that's close enough to correct. Thanks for joining in. So I don't know if you've joined in or seen what I've been working on before or not, but uh, I have a fursuit that I ended up losing about a month and a half ago, and I'm just remaking it for like the fourth, maybe fifth time here. And luckily, I've got a templates that I started off with, and now I'm just working on that while I'm waiting for the head base items to kind of finish up. Sitting there and curing and waiting for foam to come in from Amazon. So now I'm just trying to sort out what I actually need for the blacks at this point. So that'll be white. I'll do that here in a little bit. Got some black on the face here, some white. The shoulders. Got eyebrows. My chin. That's red and black, red and black. White, red and black. That's an ear. I'm gonna hold off on the ears because I don't have the foam yet, so I want to make sure that I get everything correct. And so it looks like with the black, I only have a couple. And that should be there. Okay, so let's see if I can use any of the top here. Since I got some scrap material potential here, I'll go with this here. So the chin, I marked it where I've got some arrows on the template that I made, pointing which direction. So you can see pointing that direction. I've got the fur facing towards me, so the fibers are coming towards me. I will lay that there and try to get a template marked onto the fabric. And I'm going to mirror across the middle here, so I'm going to do some marks and basically trace it out. Okay, so I mirrored it across and just tracing out the other side. And I'll mark what part it is. All right, and then I'll put that off to the side. And so I've got the chin. So I've got a shoulder. I think I can squeeze that right in here. There we go. That's shoulder, and let's see, that would be left. So I think it's right at this point. So rights are going to be shiny side up, I think. And same thing. I'm going to mirror image it. There we go. Shoulder. We'll mark that left, and we'll find out if I'm right here in a bit. All right, eyebrow. See if I can squeeze. Nope, not quite there. And the fabric's pulling. Let's see if we can get one eyebrow up in here. Eyebrow. I think I'm gonna go with the silvery side is right. Make sure the fur direction's going the correct direction. Mm, will that work? That's close. Man, that might be worth trying to squeeze it in. So around the edges here, it might be a little tight, but it's for the eyebrow, so I'm not too worried about it having not enough seam allowance there. So we'll call that eyebrow left. All right. And now this is kind of the main part of the face. This is kind of the bridge of the nose and then around the eyes here. So I like to mirror this down the middle. But I'm trying to figure out what section of fabric. I'm gonna go way over here because I've got a little chunk that I can work with here. And yeah, it looks all right. It's not horrible. Try to hold it in place with my stomach. All right, so not quite perfect. I want the fur to actually head this direction, which means I'm going to be a little bit shy, I think. Yep, that does not work. So maybe back over here again. Okay, we'll go towards the corner. I've got it marked with the arrows pointing towards me, the fur's heading towards me, and I want to make sure I don't get on the seam of where the fabric kind of ends here. So try to get that set there. All right. I think that'll work about right there. So, then just tracing it out. I like to use the silver pretty much for everything now. It shows up on almost every color fabric that I work with. And the whites, I think it works pretty decent with that one too, but if not, then I've got a black Sharpie, but I try to avoid the black, just, I don't know, I don't want it bleeding through. The silver does pretty decent. My understanding is most of the colors tend to bleed through over time, so silver and black are usually your best options. I'm just tracing around, once again, trying to keep it as flat as possible without messing it around. Come in here, do a little bit of uh, points in there, and then I might as well sketch out the center line of the body. It's not going to be quite a perfect straight line, but it'll give me something to reference. And then the eye spots, I've cut these out quite a bit more from when I originally built Blood Moon, but we'll go ahead and keep kind of cutting in here. There we go. All right. So what am I making now? So, hi, good to see you. So I am making Blood Moon 4.0 because the last one, when I went to the Renaissance Fair, I just kind of rushed it just to get it done, and I made a few mistakes on it. Yeah. So I'm just making another one. And really the biggest reason I wouldn't if I didn't like having two Blood Moons, one for indoors and then one for outdoors. So with that, I'm just going ahead and making another one. And that way, when I take one outside and it gets really nasty and dirty and just gross in general, I don't have to worry about uh, it coming back a little bit dirtier and dingier over time. So yep, I'm making my spare or primary Blood Moon, hopefully if I don't jack it up. And then from there, I'm gonna have a spare that I could take out and just play in the dirt with. Let's see. Tracing out my patterns now. And just because I'm so short on time these days, now that I'm starting a new job and all that stuff, I'm like, I'll just live stream it, and if people watch it, great. If not, I'm doing the same thing I was gonna do anyway, so not a big deal. Let's see. Forgot to trace out the eyes here. So yeah, this is gonna be, I think it's number 5, Blood Moons. Since I lost the 2, that takes me down to 1 eyeless Blood Moon, which he's just really poorly made because he was my original off-roading one that I left the eyes blank for. And yeah, I threw that one together in, it was a day. I didn't spend any time on it. And then the last Blood Moon I did 3 hours after work 2 or 3 days in a row just to knock it out real quick. And so there were some shortcuts made along the way. Let's see. Yep, you're back, Alan, too, as well. Awesome. Thank you guys for popping in. Hello, Nova Wolfie. And Cade. Yep. Looking forward to FWA. That's why I'm really rebuilding this. So I've got a nice nice new body to take with me to FWA. I'm looking forward to it. And if you could see the current blood moon, which I will pull out here. So this is the guy that I made really hastily right before the Renaissance Fair. I just don't like the way he looks when you look at him dead on. His eyes should be facing more forward, but I've got them tilted kind of outwards. And so when you look at him dead on, he just kind of looks goofy. I don't know. Maybe it's just me getting used to how I normally wear it or have it. And then I got really sloppy trying to find good light here, but I got really sloppy around the eyes again with the glue. And I'm trying to clean that up a little bit just because I was trying something new. I didn't like the way it turned out. And then my shave, I got a little bit close through here. I can't really see it indoors, but when you're outdoors, the TPU base, the black, shines through the white pretty well. So I'm just trying to resolve a few things. But in general, this guy works pretty good. But like I said, most of this stuff is glue that I'm trying to improve a little bit upon this time just because I rushed it last time. All right. Let's see. How's it going? It's going pretty well. I'm just keeping myself kind of entertained and busy here. Um, the more and more I create, it's well, I think I have actually regressed in my ability to make fursuits recently. I don't know if it's because I'm having more confidence that I could do certain things or what the thing is, but I kind of want to keep making them and try and figure out, you know, really what the best option is for me. I don't know. I feel like I keep trying new things and then it doesn't go quite the way I want, and then it's just trying to fix the problems. But overall, it's fun. Uh, I don't know. Not super good at storytelling or anything like that, but so this morning I had a broadcast a little bit earlier where I started working on the eyes. I cleaned out the head base. I attached some little pull tabs here for the elastic bands around the back of the head. Put a fan in the nose here. Discovered that I didn't have any foam for the ears or making the head base around the back, so that wasn't gonna work out. So I'm just moving on to something else that I can do in the meantime while I wait for Amazon to make their delivery this afternoon because I live in Phoenix, about 2 miles from an Amazon delivery distribution center, and there's like 6 of them around me, so things get here pretty quick, so that's pretty awesome. But the way I tend to cut my fur out, I use a razor blade. I change out the blades. I just changed it out right before the video. And I just trace out just about, I don't know, 1/8 inch, maybe a 1/4 inch away from the line that I had traced out and just make the cut. And I find that this works, at least for me, pretty well to really keep the fur fibers at the end from getting chopped off and just not looking the greatest because, hey, I chopped off the bits of the fur that I don't want to screw up. So, and this blade is not acting like a nice new blade unless I grab the wrong one, but we'll try this again. All right. That's not too bad. All right. Trim, trim, trim. But if you guys have any questions along the way or just curious about something, feel free to ask questions. I'm looking at the fur and kind of pop up and down looking at the chat. So let's see. I wish Amazon got to me quickly. Yeah, I think a lot of people think that, and I remember when I used to have to order stuff on Amazon and wait a few days for it to show up. But yep, nowadays if it's more than really a day, I'm like, nope, I could find a product that'll be here in a few hours. They've got little sedans. People drive their personal cars and deliver for Amazon sometimes around here where I've ordered something at like 9 a.m. and it pulls up at 10:45, something like that. It's just amazing. Let's see. Yeah, this blade is not making me happy. It cuts fine. It's just seems to be tugging. So I don't know if I grabbed the wrong razor blade from what I just replaced or if it's the fabric. Okay, let's see. No, this is a brand new. Well, maybe not. We'll try this one because this is leaving a. I don't know. It's just not cutting smooth. Oh, there we go. Here we go. Yep. Okay. I think I just grabbed the wrong razor blade. Oh yeah, this cuts nice now. It's amazing how a brand new razor blade will be very evident. So I swap them out almost every time I change color more or less. If I'm cutting from one to the next, I'll swap out a blade because this material just tends to dull it out real quick. So as I come around the edges, but I think the biggest piece where I can tell is when you're trying to make nice, clean cuts in a small area and not just doing straight lines. It cuts so much better when it's a brand new blade. All right. Yeah, the old blade definitely leaves little spots where you're just trying to pull the material free. So, okay. There's one for the nose facing the wrong or the right direction, so that's a win. Sometimes I've cut it out and I'm like, well, that didn't work. I pointed all the fur in the wrong direction. That was smart. All right, so then took the pattern, cut everything out, and having it face forward and backwards. That way I have a mirror image for the left and right side because I only tape one side since everything's symmetrical. But, all right. Looks like the left eyebrow here is getting pretty good despite it being right on the edge there, but I think I can, ouch, have plenty of seam allowance for me to sew onto. So, cool. That looks good. Gotta love the eyebrows. Gotta point them forward there. All right. Trim off the excess and toss on the floor. All right. Getting all these done. I don't know if anybody's online or not still, but if Kate, if you're still up, I'm considering just remaking another Amon here, probably in the next, I don't know, few months. We'll kind of let you kind of get familiar with the one that you've got now and provide any inputs and updates that you might like for it. And I just make it and send it out to you for basically free again. Just because, hey, I learned a lot from what I did the first time, but of course, I'm always wanting to improve, and I feel like I owe you an additional one. So, just let me know when you're ready, or we can talk at FWA and kind of see what updates we might want to do for you. But let's see, got the chin and the last eyebrow. Ow. Tend to do stupid things like poke myself with razor blades often. But all right. Uh, let's see. I think most of that. Yeah, I'll chop off these little bits here. I'm not gonna be able to get any value out of that. And this guy. So, all right. Got some of my basic fabric for the black cut out. So I'll set these off to the side. I'll shake out some of the fluff here. So you're asking what I use. I use a silver Sharpie. Uh, a lot of people will use the black Sharpies or fabric chalk. I like using the silver Sharpies. It doesn't, or I've never had it bleed through and become a problem, so that's kind of what I run with. Let's see. I'll trim out a little bit more around the eyes here. That way I can reference that in the future. Let's see. I know for the upper parts of the eyes here, it needs to be pretty close to what I drew because that's the top of the eyelid traditionally. And then as I come down, I'm just going to be a lot more relaxed with my cut because I'll trim that out later. Uh, Coming across, do the same thing on the other side. And good enough. Shake that out with a razor blade in my hand. Cool. You can see a little bit of fluff coming out. And we'll wipe that away. This is how your house becomes furrier than a house with pets. All right, stuff those back behind me. Let's see. Oh man, let's see. Okay. Huh. Interesting. Yeah, I like the silver Sharpies. It's one of my better options for cutting out fur. All right. Now I've got, think earlier on I was saying I use the Arctic Fox for Blood Moon. The fur just tends to lay a little different than like an Eco Shag or anything like that. So it's just got a different texture, different feel to it. Um, and this is all part of the original material that I bought for Blood Moon like a year and a half ago. I just have a bit left over. I think I'm going to use a lot of it up when I start looking at making a new tail and stuff like that. But so I'm looking for the fur direction to be a certain direction. It's either towards me or away from me, but in this case, I'm going to go away from me. And I'll go through all my fabric pieces or my templates and see which ones I need. So I'll do a white there and some on the face. I believe that's part of the shoulder still. I'm not going to do any of the ear stuff because I don't have the ears put on yet, and I'd like to ensure that what I have will match the ears that I have. So I use these to reference that, and I won't do the head yet. So I don't have a whole lot of white that I'll use, but here we are. All right. I've got so much black on me. Okay, so since I have the arrows pointing this way, showing, hey, that's the direction I want the fur to be facing, and this is telling me it's the front chest, so I know that I want this to be mirrored across this point, so I'm gonna flip this over and figure out where I want that mirror line to be. I don't want to have too much waste, so I kind of get close to the edges, but just enough where I have some seam allowance left over. And I will trace that out, which I'm off scope or off screen here. Trace, 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 and these are my mirror lines. I like putting the mirror points in there, that way when I'm sewing pieces together, if I know where that center line is, it helps me get things squared up correctly. Oops. And I don't really look for perfect uh, markings because in the end it really doesn't matter because I'm going to be trimming it out with an extra little bit of seam allowance on the side anyways. So center chest. There's no left and right because it is both. All right. Actually, I won't cut that out yet. I'll put that off to the side. And now the face. Face is face. So the fur is facing that direction that I want it to go. So I will have two separate chunks from this. And trying to make sure I've got seam allowance available for if I get close to the edge up here. All right, I'll call that good. And tracing once again. And since the shiny side is up, I believe that's maybe right, left. I don't know. I think as long as I keep consistent, shiny side is going to be, I think, right, if I'm not mistaken. But if I'm wrong, it's not a big deal. I just adjust when I'm sewing it together. Trace it out. This is the mouth slot here. And usually I leave a lot of excess material kind of in the mouth, and then as I'm placing it, then I trim it out. So I know exactly where I want the mouth material to be rather than, hey, I cut it too short and now it's not working the way I want it to be. And then I've got a little bit for the nostril there, and that should be that. I think I said this was going to be left. I don't know. We'll find out. Let's see. That's the nose. That is left side. So if it's shiny side up, I think it's right. So now it's right. Doesn't matter how many times I do this, I still confuse myself a little bit. And finding my arrows and making sure I'm pointing in the correct direction once again. Looks like I can hopefully squeeze this up a little bit there. I hate wasting material if I don't have to, but I have no problem doing it if I can't avoid it. back to the nostril. I put a dart in here to kind of curve around. Since the cheeks are three-dimensional, you try to lay everything flat when it's rounded, and you have to make these little slits and then re-sew them together, and that gives you that three-dimensional shape. So that's why I've got a few darts in here, and coming around, knock my template off. That's great. All right. Cool. That more or less gets me what I need there, and we'll call that left. We'll find out if I'm right later. Uh, at one point I thought about having a small side business doing fursuits, but as much as I like doing them, I don't think that the time commitment of what I put into them is something that I would actually do as a side job or anything. So, yes, I'll do probably an occasional one or two of them just if the thing seems like the right thing for me to do. But I don't think I'll make it a side business or anything. I have too many projects and too many hobbies that I enjoy doing, and I don't want this to become a chore and a basically a job, because then it'll take the fun away from it. Uh, but I did make a recent commission or take a commission working with Kate actually, that's in the chat or was in the chat a little bit ago. And I had a great time working on her project. She was super easy to work with, and I think overall she gave me a good taste of what working with commissioners can be like, but I don't want to assume that everyone's like her because I know that's not the case. But she was awesome to work with. She gave good feedback, and I was always happy and kind of working with her. We chatted quite a bit. So, uh, I think I'll keep it, like I said, onesie twosies, projects that just seem to work well for me, and go from there. So, and if I do more, I don't even know what I want to do. Like, I really want to do like a mannequin. I like doing circles quite a bit, but I want to change that up where I'm not doing Blood Moon 15 times. Maybe I'll put some blue in one of them and call it Blue Moon. And then I could drink it or drink beer. Well, I don't know, wearing that suit. I don't know. But I do want to do like I call it the fire circle, where its ears kind of go from a black face and then go into like a flame into the ears, and then have the tail do the same type thing. I think a fire colored scheme circle would be really cool. I really like the autumn leaves of like Japanese maple, so I really wanted to do like a tail that's just covered in maple leaves that transition from a red color down into orange, into yellow, and then maybe into like a white tail or something. Just full of maple leaves. But again, I think that's beyond my scope of ability at this point. But we'll see. I don't know. I think I've got a lot of plans. Just whether I can actually pull them together, that's always the hard part. It takes a few months here and there of me trying to mess with certain things, and I'm like, oh, that worked out well. Let's continue doing that. Or that didn't work out well. Let's try something else. So that's something that I'm kind of mentally thinking about often, is just like, hey, how would I actually put something like this together? So, um, so now I get to chop these out. But yeah, I think I really enjoyed working with Cade. I think I was telling her, I'm like, if I can, I'd like to remake hers again, but we'll let her get some time with the current one that we made, and that way we can work out any adjustments that she might want with it, something that works, what doesn't work, and we're gonna hopefully see each other over at Furry Week in Atlanta, and then we can talk and kind of see what happens with that. So we'll see. Uh, I think she'll be the last one I'll do for this year. I don't know, unless somebody catches my eye and has a project, I'm like, okay, I can't turn that thing down. So, scraps, let's see. I think that looks pretty good there. Yeah, I thought about doing those as pre-mades, but I don't know. It if they come out the way that I'm picturing, man, I could think those would turn out really cool. And I don't think I would want to give those up because I know the amount of time that I would spend putting like all the maple leaves and cutting those out and putting them together. Those would take forever, and I would just have so much time invested in it that I'd want to keep it for myself. uh, but I definitely run out of space around here. I think I've only got Hypnotic and Blood Moon, three versions of him, hanging around. So I don't have a whole lot hanging around at this point, but my daughter's about to start making a full suit of her boyfriend's dragon, and so she just got a big box of fur. Looks like a 20 by 20 by 20 cube of fur, so she has a ton more that she's gonna start doing as she gets out of college for the summer. And our house is already overflowing with furs piled in corners. I've got a pile of her in the corner to the right of me. The couch in front of me has got five different furs on it right now. There's stuffing everywhere, and I don't even make them for business. It's just me making side projects here and there, like I did with Jinx. I don't know, 3 4 months ago. That was for a close friend, and I really enjoyed working with her, trying to come up with ideas, and she luckily just said, "Yep, do what you think works best." And so I did what I thought worked, and I think it turned out super cute. She'll be at FWA with me, hopefully, as long as everything keeps going as planned. And then I think this summer she'll go out to Furry Week in LA as well. So once I cut this guy out, I'll look over at chat again, see if there's any more questions or updates. Whew. All right, another face piece there. Yep, no updates there. Um, yeah, so I think I'd also like to make like a mannequin. They seem like really cool options. I did start printing out pieces for a Protogen quite a while back. I ordered, what was it, Raspberry Pi and some panels and stuff like that. Then I realized that I hate programming. I hate computer stuff, when it comes to programming at least. So I kind of stopped on that because it just started getting into a realm that I didn't understand anymore. And I like the design aspect of things and not digital design anymore. So I kind of gave up on that. Uh, but that being said, my son started messing with some of the panels I had, and he was starting to get things to come across them like I was wanting. So he may figure them out, and if he does that, I may jump back into making a protogen because I see them as like digital circles. They are very much similar in nature, they look about the same. So if I could do like a blood moon protogen, I think that could be interesting. Uh, and then similar base as Jinx has, which was kind of like a, I don't know, cute little dog. I'm thought about doing a blood moon version as a dog as well. So I don't know. I just have little things. I've got so much of the black, white, and red that I might as well keep making and doing things along those lines that I kind of want to have other options. Then I thought about making a circle, another blood moon type thing, but having the blue and the pink. That way, when I'm out with Jinx, maybe it kind of matches or kind of goes together as a pair. Not like a pair like that, but just, hey, those two kind of go together. Uh, so we'll see. I don't know. I think I'll probably do one or so a month, just making things just for the hell of it. Um, But I do need to make some paws because when I lost the two fursuit heads of Blood Moon, I had the paws in that box as well. So now I have to make paws before FWA, so I'll probably live stream that as well just because why not? I don't like putting together videos anymore. I do, but it's a time suck. Uh, because I spend way too much time. I'm not proficient in it. So, live stream, here we are. Let's see. What music do I like? And programming. It's your realm of engineering, so I'm trying to integrate that into my suit as much as I can. Yep, so I love 3D design. That was kind of my thing in college was drafting and doing the 3D modeling of airplanes. Uh, that is totally not what I'm doing anymore, but I love that 3D modeling. I'm trying to get in a little bit more into like Blender and stuff, which is a totally different kind of modeling than actual engineering modeling. So, yeah, in my engineering days, that's 25 years since I graduated college, things have changed a ton. So, I need to kind of figure out just kind of that clay mold kind of modeling and go from there. So, that's something that I've been messing with on the side is trying to just make some changes to some of these 3D models in Blender, and then I can make them more scaled to what I'm looking for. As far as music, I'm sure you guys would love for me to put some background music or something in, but uh, I don't know. I feel like YouTube tends to disagree with me when I have music because they're like, nope, that you cannot play and have in the background because it is copyright. But in general, music, I am all over the place. I'll listen to country, I listen to like Alan Walker, techno type stuff, and then I'll jump over to Sia and then Disturbed. So I'm all over the place. Uh, I grew up on Metallica and stuff like that. So Metallica, Soundgarden, they're the ones that are primarily on my playlist. But then I've got some of the newer stuff too. So I'm kind of all over the place when it comes to music. All right. Not too bad as far as the amount of scrappage I have here. Yeah, does all right. Take the fur and fold it up over here on the couch. All right. And finally, the red and black. I have like a yard or two of this stuff, and for the amount of red that I use with Blood Moon, I could make 50 of them and still have more of this fabric left. But that's okay. Let's see what I have here. So that looks like strips for on the chest here on Blood Moon. I think that's the chest. It could be the eyes. Nope. Here's the eyebrow. Here's for the ear tip. I think that part of the ear I'm okay going with because that I probably could have done the white on the ear tip as well because I had those pretty close to figured out, always being the same thing. And so eyebrows, a little bit on the chest. What else do I have? Yeah, where's my little aha, that guy. So this little bit's for right underneath the cheeks, Blood Moon. And that should be about it until I do more ear stuff. But cool. All right. So fur direction is that way, meaning I will go to this side. trying to figure out the grain is always fun because sometimes the fur lays in one direction and you think it's going there, and then nope, that was wrong. Yeah, this is one of my favorite colors. I just love how the red kind of peeks through, but you've got all that black in there. Uh, they do have some new, I don't know, I think they call it Poison Spike from Big Z Fabrics, where it doesn't have the polka dot texture on the back. I think they use dye injection or something like that to get the black going through. Uh, but now it's just a solid color on the back and then the black tips. And that really tends to work really well because if you shave this down, it looks like a ladybug. And that's not always what I'm looking for. Ladybugs just don't really give the vibe that I'm looking at. So, all right. And here's the little cheek or chest pieces here. Let's see. Got the fur direction going the correct direction. Let's see. Eyebrows. I think I'll do eyebrows over here. So arrows are pointed that direction, so I'm going to tilt it off to the side and trace it out. Now each of these fur not remnants, but fur pieces has a different kind of backing. This one's more of a knit backing, and it's softer. The black and the white have a little bit harder of a backing, and so it's interesting just kind of working with the different materials and seeing what each one of them does. And then when you sew them together, one pulls apart sometimes, the other ones don't. So it's just dealing with what you have here. But this one's really soft, but it's a little fluffier and it gets disturbed a little bit more, which is kind of great for eyebrows because they blow in the wind. If I jack them up, my eyebrows go everywhere, which is, I don't know, kind of like my real life. So, let's see, I think that would be left. We'll find out. And right. Eyebrows. We'll mark that. I. I. Sweet. The chest piece here. Let's see. I can squeeze these in down here. All right, so these are the cheek pieces. I'll put that, stack them in about here. There's one, and then I'll flip it again. Arrows are pointing that way. And I got a little bit close to that eyebrow, so I'm going to shift this down a little bit, and I'll use that line as probably my cut line. And we'll redo the bottom here. Yeah, that works a little bit better. All right, there's that. And now we'll go with this guy. And call that right and left, finding the arrow, doing a mirror image, and there we go. Alright. And last little bit. Looks like the arrow is pointing. Pretty sure it's going in that direction. Alright. If not, I'll fix it. There's one. We'll see if that's right or not, but cool. Right, left. Alright. Got those. And I'm about done with what I can do here. And then I'll probably do some pre-shave around the face. That way I don't have a whole lot of shaving on mask or on the head because I really don't like shaving on the head. There's too many three-dimensional shapes and I just really don't like screwing it up. And that's usually the thing that's pretty much you're done with making your fursuit, shave it, and if you screw it up, you're kind of at the starting point again. So if I can avoid as much of that as possible, make my shaving mistakes before I sew anything together, all the better. All right, so one ear tip there, that looks good. When I use the razor, I try not to go too deep. I just want to break through the backing here. And just breaking through the backing so I'm not cutting the fur fibers. And I can tell this blade is starting to get a little bit worn. I said I should change it up every panel, but normally I cut a lot more chunks at a time. But this, I'm pretty much at the end of my cutting for a bit, so I'm going to see how much longer we can hold out on swapping out blades. Still holding up pretty well. Let's see. Just one of the cheap pieces. There's that. It almost sounds like Amazon outside. I don't think it's giving my phone. Sure would be nice if it was though. Alright, get this eye cut out here and then I'll find the pieces I need to pre-shave and try doing a little bit of pre-shave. I think most of us hate shaving a little bit if you've done it before. It's painful. The fur fibers get everywhere, microplastics everywhere. Normally I wear a respirator just to try to keep that down. We'll see. I may not do it with this one, just there's not a whole lot of shaving that I need to do with Blood Moon because I keep him really fluffy. Sometimes I get one little string in the corner that holds everything together, so razor blade into the finger. That's fun. At least I'm working with red, so, you know, a little blood. No, I don't think I got too bad. We're getting close. And we can stop doing this cutting stuff, which is surprisingly kind of, I don't know, requires a little bit of attention from me. So dealing with that, plus the blade's not cutting as nice as I would like it. I'm not ready to swap it out because I've got two pieces left. There's that. Scrap on the floor. And get some curve going here. There should be one more. All right. I hate throwing away scraps like this. They're big enough that I could probably get something out of it, but at the same time, I've got so much material. I've still got another panel or two of the red and black on my first shelf, so I can't keep all the scraps. I've got boxes of scraps, and they don't do anything except for get pinned on, you know, one or two pieces onto projects as a idea generator, and then I pull them off and say, nope, I don't like that. Then I move on to the next color. All right. Yeah, you'll find a use for it someday, and then I've got I don't know, I've got probably two or three boxes of scrap that I'm like, well, never found anything to do with that. So why am I holding on to these big, you know, 2 foot cube boxes? I don't know. Let's see. This looks like the nose. This comes up around the eye. So this is the face piece here. Whoops, third leg. All right, so look at this from the backside again. Cool. So this should be more or less on the mask here. Well, huh. All right. Anyways, this would come up around the nose, the nostril here, and then work up along the face with the eyes. So that's what we have going here. I know I'm going to want this trimmed and then shave in just a little bit around the eye. So I'll probably find the clippers here and just do a pre-shave just to knock down some of that bulk. That way when I'm putting everything together, I don't have a ton of extra fur just sticking in spots I don't want. But I don't know where the shaver's at. So like I said, oh, here it is. My daughter and I both share using the same stuff, same areas, so each of us moves stuff around for the other. And that makes it fun, trying to figure out where the other person put something. Especially when I try not to mess with her stuff a whole lot. And she goes to school and then it sits there for months on end, and I'm like, where'd something go? I don't even remember seeing it last. But all right, here it is. So normally I like to shave these things down on a bigger piece. That way I don't have small little corners that I'm trying to shave. But it's what I have. So I use an Andes shaver. I use a 7FC blade, and that one gives about a 3.6 or 3.2 millimeter final cut. Then I also recently got a 5 final cut FC 6.3 mil blade, which gives me a little bit longer cut. So I think actually I'll swap over to that longer one just to get the initial shave down. And so that always fun getting that initial corner started on. There we go. Then I know I still have to do a final shave on body, so I just have knock off some of the long, wispy pieces that kind of create bulk when you're sewing. I'll come along the eye here where I'll have a black and a white merge. Just kind of angle it so it kind of layers on out. Like I said, I should have done that, but oh well. We've got some of the long stuff kind of cleaned up. And then this goes towards the mouth. So I've got a little bit of the mouth that'll get cleaned up. Just in here. And a lot of this will be trimmed out anyways. So, um, all right, so didn't get a whole lot on that one. Let's go a little bit more. All right, there we go. I don't know if I kept these out here because now they're getting furrier than they need to be. Put them over there. This guy's good too. All right, and I'll scrape this onto the floor. All right. So that got some of the long stuff off. I'll come through here. I'll do that 7FC now just to knock it down just a tad bit further. Um, yeah, that's cleaning that up nice. Yeah, the fun part is cleaning up all the fur. Luckily, it's all around my table and it doesn't tend to wander off. I I lie. It's all over the house. But oh well. All right. One piece. I've got a shop vac sitting right next to me that I tend to just suck it right off the floor and it disappears forever till the garbage man dumps, and sometimes a big tuft of fur flows through the neighborhood, but birds love it. They get to make some bird nests out of it, and especially the little hummingbirds, they tend to like it. All right, there we go. All right, so got the initial shave on one of the cheeks here. Quite a bit less fluffy. You probably can't see a whole lot on that, but yep, this one's definitely fluffier. So, all right, gotta make sure I'm not trimming the wrong side. I'll go ahead and start with the 7 on this one too, just see work right up around the eye again. I'll kind of angle inward. All right, and we're about done here with the initial shave of the white. Not a whole lot. Like I said, Blood Moon really doesn't have a whole lot of shaved parts. He's kind of fluffy, which is part of what I love about him. All right, got the white pieces, the red pieces, black. All right. So I don't want the eyebrows cut. The chin's not cut. I think it might just be the face here. eyebrows, chest pieces, shoulder pieces. Cool. Done. So, alright, on Blood Moon, I know that I need his nose, probably about the eyes downward shaved, and then right around the eyes on the bottom side, really just kind of along this line. I want that shaved, and on both sides. That way, I've got a nice clean edge kind of going into it. So, I'll get started with that. I really do like the undercoat on the Arctic Fox here, though. It's pretty thick, so you don't really get too much of the backing or anything showing through just because of how thick it is. It's I get down to that point because I try to make it thinner and thinner each time I make one, and then I just end up finding a seam that I accidentally got too close on, and then it just kind of shows the backing, and I hate that so much. It's not as easy as just chopping a small chunk out of it and putting a new piece back in. It's pretty tough. You use so much glue and sew everything together. It's just, for me, easier to start over. So, all right. So I'm coming up here. That should be down his snout more. Now we're coming up around the underside of his eye, so I can go pretty short all the way up around the eye. And about here I'll stop, and I'll take that for the final shade there. Halfway up the nose. Some more. I'll stop about there again. A lot of this material right here where I'm shaving now is going to be trimmed out for my actual eyes to look out of through the screen. So I'm not too worried about that area too much. Middle of the face here, the nose. I like to trim these down now if I can. Sorry if there's anything going on in chat. Probably not. Nope, that's good. But feel free to ask questions or ask me anything or tell me something. I'm happy seeing and knowing what's going on out there. But it doesn't have to be furry related either. Sometimes I feel like I say the same thing over and over, but I know there's new people hopping in and asking the same thing, so it's all good. Allegedly, people love how fluffy my face is, but it's just because I'm using a number 10 blade with the 3D printed guards, and that doesn't work great. Yeah, let's see. Number 10. Yeah, that's a tight shave. Let's see. Yeah, at least for my blades, the number 10 is a really tight shave. That would be about half of what I'm using right now with a 3.2 mil. I think I'm showing it's like a 1.6 or something. So for me, I'm lucky if I stay with this. I think I've been screwing up the most when I do jump to the number 10 blade on the final shave, and I just get too aggressive, I guess, with it, and so it just makes it not come out quite the way I wanted it. But now we could start seeing how the pieces will start laying together here. So this will be the nose down here. We got the left part of the face or right. I'm not sure what side it is, depending on who's looking at it. But and then we got the right side, we'll call it, of the face here. So he's already starting to look like the skunk that he kind of is. So we got the black and the white, and that's when I start flipping it over and start looking at how all my pieces start lining up. Like I said, we have these darts in here, which are just little slivers that once you start sewing them together, it gives that three-dimensional curve that will go around the cheeks of the face. So that's what those are. I've got some in the back here as well, and looks like all the nostril pieces and everything start lining up just fine, except I think that's the wrong one. I don't know. It gets confusing. Nope, I think I was right the first time. All right. And then I've got way too much seam allowance over here, so I'll trim that up a little bit more as we go. Um, but yeah, so that's kind of how she's supposed to start laying. And I will typically run most of this through the sewing machine because I feel like the sewing machine, if I follow one of these lines, it's going to be really nice and straight, or at least keep a nice even seam. And then I'm also able to come back through and trim it with the seam scissors or something like that, just along the seam. That way, all of this pooch that would build up if you put these two together, we'll see, something like the two pieces come together. There might be like a 1/4 inch or 1/8 inch lip that sticks up. I can trim that real close with the scissors. That way it doesn't build a little lip on the base, especially the hard plastic bases like a 3D print would give. But then once I come in along the nose, I'm gonna start hand sewing that. Usually the darts, I'll hand sew those as well. And then just little fine details, especially on the tip of the nose. I'm gonna hand sew that just to get the curvature right. Otherwise, seems like sewing machines will give you a sharp corner and just pieces that just don't quite curve the way you wanted it to. So, let's see. And that's about how this comes together and lays. It gives you a nice little rounded corner, and all the fur kind of lays the correct direction. Number 10 would be very short, but with the printed guards, it's closer to a number 5. Can't find a balance to get to a number 7, but I guess I can afford the proper blade now, so. No, I totally get that. Like, I'll say my initial thought was, I'm gonna make a fursuit, and I'm gonna make it myself because it's gonna be so much cheaper. I guarantee that was not the case because I have bought so much stuff. I have, granted, I put a lot of money into it in the beginning, uh, just to get all the furs and everything like that. So I have enough fur in my fursuit room to probably make, I don't know, 40 suits, if not more. And I'm not talking full suits, but like head bases and everything like that. But clippers, I think these were probably 60, 70 bucks, something like that. You've got the blades, which were probably 20 to 30 bucks a piece. And I've got 2 or 3 different blade sets. The hot glue sticks, you'd be amazed at how many sticks you go through. So you probably go through 30 bucks in hot glue. Uh, the sewing machine, if you don't have one, depending on the machine that you go with, they cost quite a bit. But you can go routes that are a little bit cheaper. But hey, my daughter already was a sewer, so we have a nice baby lock here that I've transitioned to from the Singer, which was like a super cheap, probably Goodwill machine. But I think the Baby Lock does a great job. It really works well with especially Minky. it doesn't pull it and stretch it and pull it into weird directions because Minky is very difficult to sew with. Um, but yeah, so all in all, once you start adding all the pieces together, it's still kind of a pricey adventure, but I would not be able to make, 5 or 6 blood moons if I were to pay for them from somebody else for the price I've been able to get them for. So it seems like the initial investment is high, but then after that it kind of balances out where you can do it a lot cheaper. But I've really had a lot of fun with this, and every time I do it, I'm like, okay, this one's gonna be better. Yep, some aspects of it turned out to be better, but then the pieces that I don't know, that I take for granted, I kind of forget that I probably should have spent more time on it because it just didn't come out quite right. So there's a little bit of a balance of like, hey, what can I fly through and what should I spend a little bit more time on? But all right, yeah, at this point, trying to decide if I should probably hand sew a lot of these little pieces together now, and then I'll run it through the machine to get the final bits done. So I get it if people start leaving because how much fun it is watching sewing and stuff like that, but I'm gonna stay live streaming just because why not? Somebody along the line's probably gonna say, hey, I want to see how long this takes in the end, and I actually don't know how long it takes me. So if I have video evidence of how long it took me live, then maybe I'll know. Alright, so I tend to use a heavy duty all purpose thread. I think this might be upholstery. Let's see. Yeah, it's 100%. Sorry, it's a heavy duty, and I get it from Hobby Lobby. It's like $2.99, but they always have their sale type prices on that stuff, so it's like a buck 99, something like that for the thread. But I like to do the heavy duty stuff just because it's a little bit stronger, and yeah, it's just been pretty durable. And then I used a curved needle. That's my preference. It works pretty well. And I used to like doing straight needles, but after I discovered the curved ones, yeah, I don't go back to that. So I come usually to the very tip where I know 2 pieces join. So I'll go there, and then I'll pop it out the other side and pull it through. I'm going to tie it off and do it this route. A lot of times I'll do a double thread, but I want to minimize how much bulk I have on the nose or anything on the face here because really I just don't want that seam to be popping too much as it sits on the nose or on the hard plastic base. Once it starts laying on really where it has no hard backing, I don't care uh, if it's a real thick seam. The thicker it is, it tends to be the smoother and stronger it is. But all right, so I tied a little knot there, and I'll just work my way down the seam here. Try to get my thread set up one way. So I usually get the side I'm sewing with on the right, which is I think opposite for you guys, and then I'll just kind of pinch it. For me, I work the needle through, and at the same time, I drop the excess thread up and around the needle, and that tends to knot it off a little bit. And then I'll just keep working my way on the line. That way I'm sticking to the pattern that was original, and I just keep working it down the line. So, whoops. And is this the correct way to sew? I don't know. Is it what I've been doing for the past year? Yes, it is. And it's held up pretty decent, but I figure most of this really doesn't have a whole lot of strain to it when it's glued to the base. I tend to glue it really well. So really it's holding everything together and not kind of pulling apart more than anything. So I like to make sure that I get just enough material, but not too much. Yeah, and this is kind of an area that I kind of screwed up on the last blood moon that I made here. Let's see if I can find him. His name. Yep, his nose is down here in a big old jar. But so when I shaved, I can feel that hey, there is a little bunch here in the nose, and I would get the razor caught on it right in through here. It bunched up in a weird way. So I don't know if you can see, but let's see. I think right in there you can see a little bit of white showing. That's the backing showing through. One of my fixes, normally this would be a black Sharpie, but I come in here and try to fix it with a Sharpie a little bit. And then on the tip of the nose, I can just feel through here and there's all sorts of weird lumps and stuff like that. So I don't know what I did different on that one, but this is essentially the area that I'm making right now, is right around the nose. So I'll stick him off to the side here. I think that helps the color balance a little bit too. All right, and I'll continue down the line here. Find my needle. There. Oops. And I just keep going. Well, I always tend to get that tail kind of looped around the open end if I'm not careful. Come on. There we go. And even though I don't have any slit down here, I tend to still pull the thread and everything all the way down to the end of my markings. That way it's kind of pinching them together. And once it's pinched together, it's more or less getting that shape that I was looking for, which on this is a little bit of a curved nose bit here around the snout. So there we go. That's kind of sealed together, and then I'll brush that out, and usually it gets pretty well hidden. Let's see. And then at the end here, I like doing a few little knots to tie it off. So there's one. Guess I'll flip it around and do the back side towards the back of the cheek. Once again, I'll find kind of that very end tip of where I want the two pieces to meet. So you can see kind of there, I got the needle going in at the very end of the tip and out the other side. And then I'll sew that off here. I may take away some of this material. It's a little thick. Using the cheap scissors. Yuck. All right, there we go. Of course, I chopped the tail of my fur off, or my string there, so that was smart. That's an easy fix. We'll come back in here and find the ends again. All right. If I don't take care of these tails now, then I find myself having to trim them all out at the very end or along the way. Over the next 2 or 3 months, I'll keep finding these little tails as I go, so I tend to chop those off but I chopped it off too close and screwed that up. Dang it. I tried to get close, but not too close. That one I got too close. Okay, try this again. There's one. All right, and back to sewing another dart. This should kind of finish up this little pattern piece, and then I may run over to the machine, sew it on. That way I've got one side of the face more or less connected, and then I can hop to the other side, or I can just do both white ones now and then sew it all together. And then really, a lot of the face is kind of done once you get these two pieces together. So I try to minimize the number of seams, but sometimes in doing that, you give yourself a problem. So thinking about kind of the layout of your pattern is key to really getting everything to lay the correct way where you don't have very visible seams, but at the same time, like not overdoing the number of, transitions from one color or the different colors, even if it's the same color. I just like to minimize the number of seams, but sometimes that makes it worse. Wow, that was confusing. I don't know. Um, but it's a fine balance, and I think the more I do it, the more I find the right spot to put seams. Other times, I think that I did well, but I don't know what happened. Maybe it's just the direction that the fur was laying, because I around corners and stuff like that, I may change the direction of the fur just a couple degrees, and then it doesn't quite work the way I wanted it. The seams just don't disappear the way I was hoping they would. So it's a lot of trial and error and things that I'm learning as I keep doing it. But blood moons tend to work out pretty well because I think I sat there and stared at it and thought about it for a lot more time than I normally do on anything else nowadays. So let me finish up this little bit here because I lost the needle for a sec. All right, so that's about right there, and I'll do a couple more knots at the end here just to make it nice and tight, keep that thread in place, and keep it from hopefully unraveling. All right, so it looks like I got all the seams on that side of the face. I'll go ahead and do both sides of the white since I've got it here. I'll go ahead and trim out a little bit of this excess material. There we go. Throw it on the floor with the rest of its friends. Back to the tip. All right, sewing up this dart again. Sure would be nice to be able to play music and stuff without YouTube getting too angry about it. But now I get to sit here and listen to the fan keep the camera cool so it doesn't overheat here. Not losing the needle. Yeah, that's one of the tough pieces. So, Kate, I don't know if you heard me earlier. I think you might have been gone for a little bit, but I am willing to do another remake of Amon. I'll let you have her for, you know, get some experience with her, figure out what you like and what you don't like, and I will make you a new one and ship it out to you. Uh, just I'm more than happy to do that as well. So I think it turned out well. I think there's definitely some things I'd like to change on her in the future. So we'll see how FWA goes, see what you like and what you don't like, and we'll talk there and kind of have a going forward plan to get you really a remake if you'd like, because I know there were a few things that just didn't go the way I wanted them to. So let me know and we'll keep talking. I'm really glad that she looks really cute as it is though. I think she did well, but I just like those finishing touches to be a lot cleaner. And I know there were a couple spots that along the way it's like, oh, this didn't quite go the way I liked it, or we added something a little bit later which required me to cut into things. Uh so yeah, we'll look at her again in the future if you would like. If not, let me know. But we'll talk again over at FWA when we're out there. And then when I lose sharp objects, I usually don't find them until the bottom of my foot plant. Yep. Yeah, I know one of my needles is in the couch. Um, I probably shouldn't say that too loud, but no, my wife saw me drop it in there one day and I'm like, uh-oh. And it's stuck between the arm and the seat cushion and they're sewn together, so I think it's trapped inside the inside. So I'm not too worried about it, but if it's gonna come out, yep, it's gonna be found within somebody's foot, I'm sure. Alright, one last little bit here, and then I think I might jump onto the machine and, aw, missed it. Missed the tail. And then I'll get the face kind of sewn together here. And then, let's see, 12:30. Wow, it's almost lunchtime. Alright, string came out of the needle, so I gotta rethread. Alrighty, and stitch this guy up. Looks like the fursuit fan is working pretty well at keeping the camera on. This morning, it cut off on me, I don't know, 4 or 5 times before I put the fan on it, so I think the camera's a little bit happier with this. I don't think I'm supposed to be running the live stream through a USB cable with the battery. They like it to have a dummy battery in the camera, but I don't have the dummy battery and I didn't order one on Amazon this morning when I bought the phone, so I should probably look at that. But anyways, little things I'm learning along the way. I don't live stream often, but figured why not. We'll we'll try this out, see if you guys like it. If not, not a big deal because you won't watch it and I won't notice. Actually, I'll notice, but here we go. Ah, lost the string again. All right. All right. So, figuring out the face here, all the different colored furs. All right, so I use these little alligator type clips here. I don't know what you call them, but I'll call them alligator clips. You can see these little guys. I keep them and use them to kind of work my way from one end to the other. I take the fur fibers and put the two bits of the backing kind of together at the most accurate spot, and then just start working my way down the line, trying to tuck the fur into itself. That way it is out of the way when I run it through the sewing machine. So I just kind of take the clips and work my way down the line. And then usually get to the end and go, well, that didn't line up. What side is loose or what side is tight? And that's when I find out where I screwed up. But and then I have to redo all the little clips. That got jacked. I think I got 100 a pack, or maybe it was a 200 pack of these clips on Amazon. And if you look at Michael's or Joann's, well, Joann's is pretty much gone, but they're usually pretty pricey. I think the 100 pack though on Amazon, I feel like it might have been 200, but it was maybe 10 or 12 bucks. So good choice there for me. They feel as strong, or if not stronger, than the ones that get at the store, even if they're made in China with the rest of everything. There we go. All right. There's the first preview of kind of how the face is going to lay out. I kind of check it, make sure that the lines look uh, close to being kind of a straight line, or at least the curve that I'm looking for. Everything's going together well. And then, like I said, I think usually I'll come in here and also this little part last. That way it lays flat for the two sides of the face I'll put together. So then I'll go ahead and clip the other side. That way I can sew it all together at one time in the machine. Yeah. I am not looking forward to making paws. I really need to focus on those probably more than doing the head, but I should be able to knock the head out in the next couple days, but paws are kind of a pain. They're they're not, but they are. They're not as bad as they were when I first started making them. I think I've figured out kind of the right, I don't know, procedure to put them together. Because when I first made them, it took me 2 or 3 days, and they turned out looking like garbage. They were bad. So got the paws that I gotta work on, but I still don't like making them, even if they are a little bit easier than they used to be. But all right, so there's a skunk look that we got going on, a blood moon. I'm glad I threw some red in him because otherwise he really would look like a skunk. But all right, so let me rearrange the camera here. Now I can't see chat anymore because I'm on the other side of the table, so if y'all say anything, yep, sorry, I'm ignoring you, but all right, so I will choose a side here that I want to start with first, and got fur in my mouth for some reason. I'm not real sure. All right. Okay, so I'll start taking clips out one by one as we go. And so I'm just doing a straight stitch on this. Like I said, I tend to like to do that because any excess seam allowance, I'm able to then trim off. So I've got a straight stitch, like a 3 or so on the 10 pin, and yeah, so I'll start doing a couple stitches inward, just far enough away, and then I'll do a back stitch or two just to lock that stitch into place. And now I will start working my way down the line. Try and stay on my silver marquee shot. Ooh, that doesn't sound great. And I like to go slow on my stitch. Let's see. I feel like I didn't flip these in the right spot, so this is usually when I discovered that, hey, I wanted to have a black or the white side have a little bit more tension and compression, so I will clip these, and as I'm working my way down, kind of make sure that it's laying the correct direction or correct way now. So at least it got me started right off the bat. Let's see. I don't know if I'm close or far. Okay. Hopefully that helps if you guys can't see anything. White gets clipped there. Okay, that feels a little bit better now here. All right. And that's about where the back of the white or the end of the white is, so I'm gonna back stitch again. Flip the thread, and let's see how I got. So I did miss a little section in here, kind of felt like I did. So I gotta come back in and just re-sew this little section, uh, just because I missed it. The way I clipped it, it didn't quite grab the way it should have, so I will flip it here. Huh? I'm not sure if you're recording. Why? I'm got the screen facing me. Thanks. All right. Think I got that one as well. Some of that looks good. So, like I said, all of this excess here that's not at the seam, I'm gonna trim that down real close, and I may snip a line or snip the thread on accident, which tends to happen. So then I'll come back in, probably hand stitch that just to make sure that I get what I need. But in general, I don't like all this extra material because it'll create a lump in the face. So I'm going to trim that out. Let me chat here real quick. See what we got. Nothing new, so that's good. Okay, so once again, I want to start from the same spot. That way it's kind of symmetrical even when sewing. Want to come from the same spot because I tend to find that the material will shift around and kind of do different things. So at least it's going to be consistent if I start from one spot and do the same thing in a mirror image. So, all right. So I backstitched a little bit there, lay this flat, and here we go. So much fur in my mouth. All right. Yep, seems like they are good. Nothing quite missed on that one, so that worked out well. And there we go. The skunk is there. All right. I'll take all these splits and move them back to the other side here. Let's get the camera set again. All right. Here we go. Not 100% where my slicker brush is, but I normally like to brush it out a little bit, but this isn't too bad. I can just wipe it down with my hands here. Kind of see how we got going. Overall, it looks decent. The lines look pretty consistent uh, both ways, so I'm happy with that, I think. Uh, this is when I start, usually point out the head base. Whoops, that was backwards. That would have looked really weird. And then just try doing a dry fit here, make sure things start falling in the same spot, the right spot, and see how it looks. So overall, it's taking the shape that it's supposed to. There we go. And like I said, I put a lot of extra material kind of around the mouth here. That way I've got about a good quarter to a half inch of material hanging past the lips, and then I'll just trim that back when he's got finished glued. And then looks like I got about the right spot right about here. I leave the fur getting a little bit longer so it fades from a little bit shorter back here into the long. And then once again, same type thing, kind of around the eyes. I like to keep that nice and trimmed. I'll come back through with the clippers and clip around the two colors. That way they fade nice and smooth into each other. Just hopefully not get too thin. So, all right. So that's looking good. And I'll pull out the good fabric scissors. And I'll just start coming along and trimming out some of this excess material. Like I said, the straight stitch allows me to be able to do this. Where if I had like I don't know, a different stitch that would capture the ends, I wouldn't be able to trim it because then I would just cut the stitches free, which don't really work so well with what I'm trying to do here. And it doesn't mean I'm not going to screw up and get too close and screw it up anyways. But I will hope for the best. And I tend to find that on the faces, I like to leave as little excess material as possible. I want it to be really about what I had it drawn on the template is what I want it to be as my final uh, marking. So I tried to mark and sew exactly on the line. And so that way, when I put it on the face, it's not too loose and everything just sits nice and tight. And then when I do the hand stitching, I almost laid zero tolerance. That way the two pieces more or less lie flat and don't have any sort of lump at all. But that's what I failed to do on this last Blood Moon because I was rushing it, just trying to get it done for Renaissance Fair. But I kind of expected that suit to get maybe destroyed in a way going to Renaissance Fair just because it's an outdoor event and I knew the weather for the weekend was supposed to be like cloudy, if not rainy, and it ended up being really windy and kind of warm. The morning was really cold, but the day got really hot actually throughout the day. Uh, but there were mud puddles all over the place because the day before it had rained quite a bit. So that's why it started off cool. We had some clouds, some rain, and then it cleared up and got really hot, somewhat humid. So I didn't want to spend too much time and call it freaking a perfect blood moon and then destroy them out in the field. So that's why I did that. And if you hear me spitting like air out, yeah, I'm trying to get rid of the fur that's all over inside my mouth because for some reason fur tends to end up there when you're messing with it. All right, so trimmed those out. Now let's go to the other side. Thanks, Alan. I'm appreciative that you're still hanging around with me here, or if you're popping in and out, that's more than acceptable as well. But no, thank you. It's kind of nice not being alone here. And I think I just snipped too close. Yep, I snipped too close on that one. But that's okay because I kind of missed the sow line as it was anyways, so I don't mind. I need to come back and clean that seam up anyways. So I'll just keep trimming this out and then I'll come and fix all the mistakes or the trims that I got too close on. Close there, let's see. All right, there we go. Just got a little bit of a seam that I need to fix on that real quick. And, oh, you've been listening as you've been working. Wow. I don't even say a whole lot, so that's got to be a boring listen. But thank you. I'm glad you're hanging in. And I still missed this seam, so I'm going to have to do that again. Sometimes these little guys get pretty close and pretty tight, pretty hard to get right on the line. I think I just caught that one. All right. Well, I think I have most of the face piece done. So once we start getting the foam and all that stuff, so I can do the ear and the the backing of the head and all the actual fitment piece, I can start at least getting the face kind of sewn on here. So got the main piece kind of going here. I'll work on the nose a little bit and get that tidied up in the front here. And then I've got the eyebrow area, get them massive red eyebrows going because who doesn't? I don't know. I love the eyebrows. I wish I could make them a little bit stickier so that they just always stay stuck up in one direction, but they're a little wispy. So sometimes he looks a little goofy, but all in all, it's coming together. So we will see if I screw it up at the last minute here. But no, I get that. When my daughter, so saying, I mentioned yesterday, it's very motivating to have someone working on their project in proximity, and yeah, it's definitely kind of a morale boost watching somebody else do it, or maybe not morale. It just gives you that motivation to do it because when you're doing it by yourself or you just, I don't know, it sucks doing it. So I tend to have my daughter when she comes in and she starts working on her projects. That's when I'm like, well, let me get my fur out and let me start chopping out little patterns for making the paws and stuff like that. And so I totally get that. And then, am I just brushing the fur onto the floor? I am. I've got tile floor and there's really no grout line, so I've got an area off to the side of the desk here that I just sweep it into a big pile. And overall, at the end, I just sweep it up with my hands because I find the hands work better than the broom. And yeah, so if I don't get it all with that, then the shop vac is right at the end of the desk as well, and I suck up the last little bit with that. So, let's see. I should clip. Let's see. How do I want to do this? I think I'm gonna machine sew the nose transition here as well, and I'll just leave the little nostril hole there. But I'm gonna machine sew this that way it's a nice smooth transition and I can trim the excess off as well. So let's see. Wow, I went with all orange on those clips. Surprise! Not like it's a big deal, but the random luck. And I screwed up with this one. Yellow. All right. So we got that. And swapping to this one. Got blue, red. I guess that wasn't red, that was pink. We got red now. And that's good enough. All right. I'll swap to the machine. I'll do that real quick off camera. Looks good. One more side. Stitch, stitch. Alright, so the whole loop of the nose works there. And where is my black thread? I know it's in the sewing machine. Is there another one? Hmm. I'd really like to have black thread for the nose here because if anything happens and the thread starts showing through, I don't want the white showing through. I have this really fine thread, which I really don't like the fine thread. It's got pink blue. I'm gonna check the spare bedroom. Alright. Found a little tiny bit here, so that'll save me if I screw something up, which I'm sure I will because that's just what I'm gonna do. Alright. I want to make these as clean of little cuts on the nose as possible. Minimize the seam allowance, so I'm just chopping those back a little bit. Getting rid of all the excess seam allowance right down the middle of that nose there. That way I don't have a big pooch when I sew it together. Alright, that's pretty close there. Alright, I'll take that. That's alright. Nothing more engaging than watching somebody hand sew here, so bear with me while I knock this out. I don't know if it's just me, but sometimes tying these little knots with the thread at the very end is the most challenging, stupid little thing that I'm like, why can I not get these little knots? I leave plenty of thread, but I can't get the tail tucked in the hole. There we go. Get one. See if I can do the second knot. There we go. Yeah, I don't know if I can sit there and just watch basically what I'm doing. Uh, but I figured, you know what? I'm just gonna do it because I have videotaped myself making, or I call it videotape. That doesn't really exist anymore, but I video myself uh making the fursuits and speed it up 4,000% or whatever it is so many times that at this point I've got so many copies of that. I'm like, I might as well just live stream it. If anybody's interested in watching, they can. If not, they don't have to. But it's up there and we can see how this thing comes together. How much can I get done in a day? Well, probably a lot more than I am going to because whoops, I don't have the full set of things I needed to do for the day, but I'm just moving on anyways. But all right, so kind of got to the end of that one there, but I also put a knot in my thread, so I'm gonna chop that short and throw it on the floor. I'll do one more on the other side and then stitch it all together. Well, have a good one. Best luck with the car. That sounds exciting. Yeah, so if you end up at FWA, feel free to shoot me a message either here on Facebook or Instagram or something like that, and I'd be more than happy to meet up with people. I know it's kind of a big con, but I'm nobody, but it's still fun to meet people. So have a good one. Good luck. Get the last little bit of that nostril, and then I will seam up the middle of his nose. And then I think I'm gonna grab some lunch, because I like food. I haven't eaten. Get all, jeez. Come on, fur. That's what I get for trimming after the fact. Just pluck all this out. Shake you out. And I got some in Blood Moon. I don't know, what is he? 3.0's ear? So, my bad. Alright. I always find this to be the slowest part, is kind of working on the nose. Once I get to doing all the neck fur and stuff like that, man, it just flies by because all I have to do is sew straight lines and just clip a few things together and the thing's done. But hand sewing and getting this little bit on the nose complete, ugh, it takes time. But I think I'm putting myself in a good position so when I get that foam, I can just kind of fly after that. But so, Alan, you were saying you were working? Are you at like work, or are you just working around the house and or working on a fursuit, or because I think right now I would be should be watching something. I should put YouTube on. One of my favorite shows I watch on YouTube is uh Perkins Builder Brothers. They build houses over in North Carolina, and I fell into watching their stuff, mainly because, like I said, I liked architecture and did engineering for a long time, and they're just kind of entertaining, a lot more entertaining than I am, but they have a pretty good production going. So I watch them. Let's see, who else do I watch? Garden Answer. She is up in Idaho, works on her garden. They've got big acreage that they just do all sorts of stuff, but I haven't watched her stuff in a little bit now, mainly because it's wintertime and when it gets away from the garden stuff, I don't care so much. Uh, so as the spring starts coming out, they start planning new things and it's fun. But you're working at home, you own a business? Okay, gotcha. Well, that's cool. So I've got all sorts of hobbies that definitely do not quite fall within the furry realm. So I've been going to rodeos quite a bit lately and watching people, you know, do the calving and ropings and all sorts of things. And I find it funny how I go from going to a Renaissance festival with a furry attire and then swapping clothes halfway through, throwing on Western gear, going out to the rodeo, enjoying the day out there. Then I go to car shows and do off-roading and all sorts of things that just aren't traditionally a furry thing. So, like I said, I'm kind of a weird furry all around. Just come up with, I like doing certain things, and if it's not within the normal realm, why not? It's just what I like to do, and I'll join the furry community. Why not? So, and I've got plenty of friends within it. It's pretty fun. I like going to cons. I like going to the fur meets and getting to know the locals. So overall, interesting little thing that I got into that really does not fit in with my normal line of work. So, but all right, I think I'm about done with his nose here. Where did that thread come from? Cool. It's kind of sad looking at the floor with all my trimmings there. Kind of looks like a blood moon went through a blender or something. There's all sorts of chunks of black and white and red fur. Kind of looks like a death scene for Blood Moon. Let's see. Trim this out a tad bit more. Did I? Nope, I'm good. Okay, I thought I trimmed too close and I was gonna have to re-sew that, but I survived. I got close. Trim, trim, trim. No, working a lot's definitely something I did pretty hard in the very beginning, especially once you get established and or getting established. So I totally get that. I always just I have interest and I tend to gravitate towards something and go pretty hard at it for a while, and sometimes it falls apart and I lose interest, or I've had to move from different regions of the country or the world to different spots, and like scuba diving. I love doing that, but when we didn't live on a tropical island in the middle of the Pacific anymore, I don't really do a whole lot of that in Arizona. I'd love to. I could go to California, but California doesn't really interest me from the scuba diving standpoint just because the waters are so cold. It's a different kind of diving. And yeah, just I jump from thing to thing. I'd love to go back and scuba dive again, but hey, it'll happen, I'm sure, at some point if I find the right time to do it. But let's see. These seams, yeah, their seams feel pretty good. All right, so there we go. We got the muzzle starting to get laid in shape. I'll have to clean up his shave on the nose a little bit here in a bit, but that'll wait till I get the rest of his head base done. That's it's looking all right. So, all right. Well, I will call that good for now because I am hungry. So I'm gonna go grab some food. I'll see if Amazon delivers foam, and if they do, I'll probably work on that a little bit tonight. For me, it's 1 o'clock. I think Amazon said between 5 and 10 they would deliver the foam. I heard somebody outside the door like a couple hours ago. I think they would be pretty impressive if they actually did that way earlier than expected, but I don't think it was them. But all right, well, I'm gonna quit for now. I will see you later. Have a good one. Thanks, guys.